Hey everyone, just a video here today to talk about conics, specifically ellipses, and also some rotations that we're going to do with these. So what I want to talk about first is just the kind of standard form of an ellipse, and then how we're going to modify that to change things into a more skewed, kind of rotated version for our purposes. So usually this type of thing isn't covered because it's not like a true rotation where it's going to be exactly the same size. We're kind of skewing it and make it a little bigger, a little smaller. But we are going to be able to rotate and resize and stuff like that, which will be useful for the graphing project. So first off, right, the kind of standard form of an ellipse that you're used to is down here. That is the x squared over a squared plus y squared over b squared equals 1. You can also add an h and a k into there. So if you want to recenter it, add a hk, then inside that square with the x, I'm just going to put a minus h. And inside the square with the y, I'm going to put a minus k. All right, so that's kind of standard transformations for any graph. And ellipses, it works as well. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to add some other thing in here that has both an x and a y, right? So I can add something with an x and a y in here as well, and we can see what happens. So if I'm just going to type right now xy, right, over a times b, and then throw in that other plus, right? So this is now going to be kind of this rotated, right? Still have the same center right there at 0, 0. But now it's a rotated conic, right? And you'll notice these same endpoints that I had on my original ellipse are still going to be on the ellipse. They're just not at the ends anymore. So they're not on that major and minor axis anymore. So this will keep a few elements the same, namely these 4 points right here, but things are going to rotate around. So we're going to be able to get conics that aren't necessarily just left and right, up and down in orientation, but more diagonal. So I'm going to go ahead and erase that term, and this will be true of things that we shift as well, so we'll shift it, but right now you'll notice up here at the top I have kind of the more generic form of this ellipse. So it's that x minus h over a. I chose to include both of those inside the square, right? And then we have this x minus h over a term in the middle along with the y, and then plus the y minus k over b also squared, and then that also equals 1, right? So we got equals 1 right there. I also put this plus c, right, in front of the x and y term. So we have an x squared, we have a y squared, they're both added. I also put in this plus c times the x times y. So we're putting in this xy term that's right here. Now what I want to do is go ahead and rotate this by just moving the c, right? So if I move the c in the positive direction, we can see it kind of stretches out like that. If I move it in the other direction, sort of stretches out like that. So that allows me to make this a bit more of a diagonal ellipse on these guys. I can also resize this, right, to whatever I want by adjusting the A and the B. So I can make this a little bit skinnier, a little bit taller, right, just depending on what I want. If I want it more up and down, I can go this way. Maybe make it skinnier and taller, a little bit wider. And I can still adjust the C, right? This time now you can see it kind of rotates between that top and bottoms to left and right. So it will always sort of rotate around the edge of this major axis point. These vertices sort of rotate around that side. Not the other side. So you may have to drag, right, your A and your B to just make those go wherever you need them to then be able to rotate right around the other direction. So that should kind of help us in our graphing project be able to get ellipses that are now slanted rather than just vertical or horizontal. So we'll do another video where we kind of tackle some of this in the graphing project. One other thing I want to mention before we do that is scaling. This, I'm going to go ahead and hide this standard one real quick. So if this were my ellipse, let's say, and maybe it wasn't quite right, maybe I wanted it a little bigger, a little smaller, there's two ways you can do it, right? You can just make this point bigger, this point bigger, right? Try to drag it. The other thing you can do is change this equals 1, right? So if I change that to equals, let's say 2, then it's a little bit bigger, right, on the outside there. Equals 4, right, would be kind of the same orientation of that ellipse, but just further out. So we're thinking of this as maybe um, a scaling factor in itself, right, is what's on the other side of this equals. So I would say go ahead and start with 1, but you can always modify that if you need it in the same orientation, but just slightly bigger, slightly smaller. So if I made that a 0.5 instead of a 1, I should get something a little smaller, right? So making it less than 1, but still bigger than 0 is going to make it smaller, closer to that center. Still the same kind of orientation wise, and then making it a little bit bigger, right? Maybe like 1.1. Don't make that point. We just make it slightly bigger, right, in that direction. And you can always, right, drag and modify things as well. So that's kind of the way that we're going to cover these rotated or skewed, it's probably a better term, skewed ellipses for these guys. And like I said, we'll look at some of these in the graphing project here in a minute. And one thing before we leave, I'll just mention if you're shading, we'll cover shading in more detail in another video, but you can use less than, right, or equals to shade inside, and you can use greater than or equals to shade outside. So those are going to be some useful shading things that we can do. And we may also do some restrictions on these, like maybe I don't want the entire ellipse, maybe I just want part of it, and how do I cut it off, that sort of thing. So that will be covered in another video, but that'll do it for now. We'll see you on the next one.